Let's start with this little interview.
Yes.
So, Lawrence and myself. Lorenzo,
yes.
can we consider ourselves doppelgangers? We already said that.
Good.
You already know that I'm very grateful for you, for your works.
Thank you, Lorenzo.
Today I want to ask you some questions, starting with urban legends about your books, your stories.
Mm-hmm.
2 questions.
All right.
Tim Burton and George Romero. Is it true that they were close to release movies?
Who's the first one? We had a nice meeting with Romero, and he, back in the day, he was supposed to, we were talking about doing the Goosebumps movie, but we never got it together. Who's the first one you mentioned?
Tim Burton.
Tim Burton? Well, that's another story. Because we went out to meet with Tim Burton. This was back in the 90s, to do a Goosebumps movie. I think it was at Paramount. And we had a nice morning meeting with him. And he was supposed to be the producer, not the director. He was assigned to be the producer of the movie. And we met him around the table like this. And we had a really nice talk. And I said, Tim, do you think we should do something new, or should we base the movie on the old stories? And he started to talk, and he said, well, I think we should do something new, but we should do those things you do in your book. We'll do a new story, but we'll do, those things you do, all those things you do in your books. And he talked for half an hour, and my wife was sitting around across the table, and I'm sitting here, and we looked at each other, and we both knew he had never seen a Goosebumps book.
Okay.
Yes, he'd never seen one. That's where that never worked out. He got involved in a Superman project, which never happened, and he never did anything with the Goosebumps movie. And then 23 years went by after that. And they finally got it together and got a movie out, the Jack Black movie.
Great one. Is it true?
I never tell that story.
In fact, I have goosebumps on asking for hearing that.
So I'm not the biggest Tim Burton fan. He'd never seen one. He talked for half an hour about it.
Is it true that you took inspiration from for your Night of the Living Dummy saga from Dead of Night movie released in 1945, or from the Twilight Zone episode?
William Goldman wrote a book called Heat, I think, which also had a dummy in it. There's a William Goldman book.
Magic.
Magic,
Yes. The same of the movie with Anthony Hopkins.
Yes,
oh,
right.
Great one.
And that had a ventriloquist dummy.
Great one.
The first time I remember, I just had a lot of puppets when I was a kid. I had a dummy, Jerry Mahoney. And so I was always interested in it. I don't really know the inspiration for Slappy. Now, I did see that British film. It's a
Great
trilogy.
One. It's a great one, yeah.
Yeah, where the dummy comes to life and ruins the ventriloquist. That probably stayed in my head. I didn't see it when it came out. I was, almost born. And I saw it later on. And of course, I never missed the Twilight Zone. But I can't really tell you where Slappy comes from.
Time flies, decades are passing by, but fear is the same, as you told us yesterday. Your stories were scary in the 90s and are still scary nowadays.
I try.
I want to ask you something about the visual aspect of your scary stories. I'm not talking about Tim Jacobus, but I'm talking about Ron Stefaniuk.
I had the Monster Shop up in Toronto where we filmed the original Goosebumps series. Yeah, I remember him. He created all the monsters, and he created the Haunted Mask, and all those other masks. Original Goosebumps show was totally Canadian. So, all Canadian actors, totally Canadian crew. We filmed it at a Molson brewing factory in Toronto.
Did he talk to you when he was preparing the stuff for the TV show, or he worked by
he
himself?
didn't have any approval or anything. I loved everything he
Everything,
did.
everything.
And we didn't have much of a budget. It was a very low budget. And he and his guys there, they were amazing. They did amazing work.
I think that his design of Slappy, even if different from the common dummies, is absolutely incredible.
No,
and
Slappy had that red hair in
So
those days. His Slappy was very scary.
Very scary.
Later they made Slappy look like Jack Black for the movie because Jack did the voice.
Yeah. What's your most underrated story, Mr. Stine?
Most underrated?
Most underrated.
Well, I was talking this morning about this Goosebumps book I like called Brain Juice, which is really a favorite of mine. Nobody knows it. No one ever talks about it. No one ever brings it up.
Is there a story from a book or a movie by other authors that you would have loved to write?
Yeah, a million of them. Try Harry Potter.
Really? Really?
No, a million stories. There are a lot of wonderful stories out there. But I never think, oh, gee, I wish I wrote that.
Okay.
No, I never think that.
Have you seen or experienced something scary here in Italy and in Lucca? Maybe that's something that you could tell in a story? Or
Not yet.
Not
yet. No.
Don't you think that in modern times, scary book lack of fantasy?
I think they're popular scary movies and everything because the world is so scary, the real world is so scary, and there is an escape. They're an escape for people. Whenever people are really scared of something, it's a good time for horror movies.
Your story can scare both young boys and adults. Do you think that we all have the same approach, or something change between a boy and an adult that read your stories and is always scared by them?
I don't know. That's not anything I thought about. When I write them, I write the stories for 10-year-olds. But now, of course, I have a lot of older readers. And I have, a lot of people who read me or who come here to see me because I'm nostalgic to them. I'm nostalgic to all the 90s kids. I'm nostalgic to them now. But I don't write the books for the older. I write the books for 10-year-olds.
The last question.
Yes.
Redemptive maternal love in The Haunted Mask is a simple but sublime theme.
It's a very simple solution, isn't it?
But it's sublime.
Yeah, I was so pleased when I came up with it.
How did you choose it?
I came up while I was writing the book. I said, how am I going to get her out of the mask? What am I going to do? I got to think of something. And somehow that's what I thought of. And then she makes the head, the mother makes the face, and she gets it, and it solves the problem. But that was just, trying to think, what am I going to do? How do I get Carly Beth out of that mask?
I've finished. Thank
Wonderful.
you. Thank you.
Wonderful.
My idol.
Lorenzo.
My idol.
Thank you. Hey, this was great.
Can I ask you another autograph today?
Yes. What?
Try to guess. Guess it.
What?
The best one.
Monster Blood.
No, the best one. Yesterday you said that your masterpiece is this one.
There it is.
So
That's one of Tim's great covers
great,
too.
so great.
That's one of it.
Amazing.
That's his niece
And
behind him. She was so disappointed that his niece posed for it, but you can't see her. She was so disappointed you can't see her face.
do you agree that this is also a brilliant TV
Which one
movie.
is that?
The Haunted Mask, the TV.
Oh,
TV show.
it was the first show we ever did.
It's the
The very first show.
It's a brilliant one.
Yeah, they did a great job.
Great job.
Well, the Catherine Long, who played Carly Beth, is wonderful. She's a wonderful actress. Let's see if it works.
Thanks a lot.
Hey, great.